We're starting this deep dive right where all the chaos begins. You're
Yes.
standing in a luxurious Long Island living room that has just become a complete and utter nightmare. I mean,
Hmm.
we're talking about a scene of absolute sickening excess, a crime scene just painted in crimson.
The prologue is just a masterclass in setting the mood, isn't it? It's instant. We aren't given a quick detail. We're given this, like, forensic examination of the sheer volume of violence.
Yeah.
Just imagine the horror. There's blood everywhere. It's soaking this expensive cream-colored rug. It's seeping into the oak floorboards under it. It's speckled all over the coffee table, and it's just dripping down these alabaster walls.
The word the book uses is endless.
Endless, exactly. And that immediately tells you, the listener, this is not some gentle mystery where a body is found neatly tucked away. No, this is a visceral, gripping, psychological thriller. It's packed with these really disturbing human secrets and just violent, abrupt twists.
And our mission today is to unpack all of that chaos. We're going to be peeling back the intricate layers of deception, surveillance, and inherited trauma that really form the psychological architecture of Frieda McFadden's novel, The Housemaid Is Watching.
Right.
We really need to move beyond just summarizing the plot. We're analyzing how a family's desperate attempt to achieve a normal suburban life is just systematically undermined by their own dark history and the, frankly, toxic environment they move into.
And our central figure here is Millie Accardi. Her history is kind of the fault line that runs right underneath this whole seemingly pristine cul-de-sac. So we're going to examine how the Accardi family, that's Millie, her husband Enzo, who is intensely protected,
Intensely.
and their kids, Ada, who is 11, and 9-year-old Nico. We'll see how they try to establish a foothold at 14 Locust Street. This move is like their Hail Mary pass at a fresh start, a clean slate.
But the novel immediately clues us in that this fresh start is pretty much doomed by the very geography they chose. I mean, the sources make a real point of introducing the history of the three houses on Locust Street, and this context is absolutely crucial.
Oh, it's more than crucial. It's basically an architectural metaphor for social hierarchy. So you have the Lowells at 12 Locust Street. Their property was, historically, the main farmhouse. It's the seat of power where the wealthy owners lived.
Right, the big house on the block.
Then next door, at 13 Locust Street, you have the Archers. And their house was originally the servant quarters.
Okay, so you've got the masters and the servants.
And then there's the Accardis at 14 Locust Street. Their brand new, smaller home was built on the land that was originally the animal shelter.
Wow. Okay.
Exactly. So the narrative establishes this historical context: farmhouse, servant quarters, animal shelter, right up front. It positions the Accardi family at the very bottom of the neighborhood hierarchy before Millie even unpacks a single box.
So all their efforts for, like, upward mobility are immediately countered by this unspoken social code of the street. It just reinforces Millie's sense of being perpetually observed and, judged. She's an outsider trying to rise above her station.
That's a great way to put it.
It's fascinating. It's not just some cute fact. It's the novel telegraphing to you, the listener, that you will be treated like the animal shelter folk. And this feeds directly into section 1, where we see this immediate crushing pressure of trying to maintain that facade of normalcy against, just relentless financial and physical stress.
The Accardi's move is really rooted in desperation, not luxury. The financial strain on Millie and Enzo is it's the bedrock of their anxiety, and it's critical to understanding why they put up with the neighborhood hostility for so long.
Okay, so let's unpack the sheer burden of this move. They didn't just buy a house, they literally sunk everything they had into it. The source material emphasizes they used all their savings just for the deposit, and the mortgage is crushing them. They got it below asking because it was a fixer-upper, but that just adds more work and more debt.
Precisely, which means the pressure to produce income is just relentless. Millie has to work constantly at a hospital, and Enzo, who's trying to pivot his landscaping business from his established, reliable client base in the Bronx to this wealthier, more insular Long Island community, he has to hustle aggressively.
He has no connections out there.
None. He knows that here he needs word-of-mouth referrals and social capital to survive, and he just doesn't have it. This financial tightrope walk explains so much about why he later compromises himself socially with the neighbors.
And that crushing, relentless pressure, it doesn't just stay abstract, does it? It starts to manifest physically in Millie. She's having these severe physical symptoms.
Yeah, she's diagnosed with extremely high blood pressure by Dr. Suderman, and the doctor attributes it directly and unequivocally to the stress of the move.
Just flat out says it. This is because of the move.
The financial risk, the secrets she's trying to keep buried. She starts medication, but the narrative is very clear. The pills aren't helping, at least not right away. This high blood pressure becomes this recurring physical motif. It's a literal measure of the toxicity of their new environment and her suppressed anxiety, which is all linked to her past life as Millie Calloway.
If you think about inherited trauma, her body is literally reacting to the stress of trying to outrun that trauma. It's like a physical odometer for the psychological damage.
Absolutely. And this becomes Enzo's excuse later on. He kind of weaponizes this diagnosis, the need to protect her from stress, as a justification for keeping these critical secrets from her.
He thinks he's helping.
He thinks he's acting in her best interest, even when his actions are causing her the most emotional damage. It's a very interesting, if manipulative, form of devotion.
Speaking of toxic environments, let's look at the architects of Millie's stress. The neighbors at 12 and 13 Locust Street. We should start with the Lowells at number 12, the farmhouse. Suzette and Jonathan.
Suzette is the embodiment of the suburban facade that they are trying to buy into. She's got the perfect, expensive aesthetic, the butterscotch-colored layered bob, the tailored white blouses, those intimidating heels. And she presents as overly friendly, but it's immediately laced with this kind of social aggression.
Oh, the interaction with Enzo is a total powder keg. She catches him carrying heavy boxes and immediately zeroes in on his physical strength, his appearance, complimenting him, openly calling him really hot right there in front of Millie.
And Enzo, who is always the hustler trying to fit into this wealthy new world, he responds by leaning into his Italian accent and his charm for her benefit.
Which has to be just gut-wrenching for Millie to watch.
It's a double threat for her. First, there's the immediate, intense jealousy that Suzette sparks. But second, it's the awareness that Enzo is performing for Suzette, using the very charm he used to escape the Bronx in the first place, all to gain access to her real estate contacts, which he desperately needs for his business.
So it's a necessary professional compromise that just feels like a personal betrayal.
Exactly. And Suzette, she senses that insecurity, and she is an absolute expert at the passive-aggressive dig toward Millie. She finds these subtle but really painful ways to remind Millie that her house is substantially smaller than the farmhouse.
But the moment that truly stings, that highlights the class warfare and judgment, is when she compliments Millie on having another little one on the way.
Ugh, yes.
She mistakes Millie's anxiety weight for a pregnancy, and she points right at her abdomen.
That detail is so vicious because it's just so dismissive. Millie has to clarify that she is not pregnant, that she had her tubes tied years ago, which just cements the fact that Suzette is judging her on sight without knowing a single true thing about her.
And what makes it so much more painful is Enzo's reaction. The book says he briefly shows a glimmer of excitement before he realizes the gravity of the insult. That small detail just underscores the emotional distance that the secrets and the financial stress are creating between them.
And Jonathan, Suzette's husband, he's initially the calm counterpoint. He works in finance, he seems amiable, a breath of fresh air. But we get that small, crucial detail early on. He's morose about the child-free agreement he has with Suzette.
Which is the first crack in the Lowell facade. It makes you realize their perfect life is built on a private compromise, which, as we find out, is a lie hiding some very dark behavior.
Okay, so now let's turn to the other half of the neighborhood watch. The Archers at 13 Locust Street, the servant quarters, Janice and Spencer. If Suzette operates with fake charm, Janice is just pure, unfiltered hostility and paranoia.
Millie first encounters Janice while she's waiting for the school bus, and Janice is immediately unnerving. She's just staring out of these dark windows, wearing old-fashioned horn-rimmed spectacles connected by a silver chain. Millie just sees her as old and judgmental.
And Janice wastes zero time establishing herself as the moral authority of the block. She expresses this genuine horror that Millie plans to let Ada and Nico walk home from the bus stop alone, even though it's, a very short distance.
She even snaps her fingers to demonstrate how quickly a predator could strike.
Right. And she cites the story of an alleged abduction of an 8-year-old boy a few towns away. As a listener, you absorb that fear. But what's fascinating is what we learn later from Suzette. The story is totally debunked. It wasn't a stranger abduction at all. It was a nasty custody dispute where the father drove the kid over the border to Canada and the child was recovered.
So Janice is actively, aggressively weaponizing fear and paranoia to undermine Millie's confidence as a working mother.
100%. She questions Millie's dedication. And when Millie confirms she works, Janice delivers this final, crushing judgment, just clucking her tongue and declaring it terribly sad that Millie's children won't have the love they deserve from a mother who won't leave their side.
It's class and moral judgment just delivered as a caring reprimand. It's brutal.
But hang on, the critical irony here is that Janice, the paranoid busybody, is actually the only honest one about the reality of the street. She delivers the first major, crucial warning that just completely shatters Millie's sense of privacy.
Right. She looks Millie dead in the eye and says it.
She says, "I hope you're getting some good blinds for your windows because she has a great view." And that is the moment the Accardis realize their new house, particularly the master bedroom, which is situated directly across from Janice's dark windows, lacks any window coverings.
They are completely exposed. That realization that their private life, their intimate moments, everything is just available for public consumption by the paranoid neighbor. It instantly transforms the dream house into a prison of surveillance.
It totally justifies Millie's high blood pressure and escalating paranoia in one simple, terrifying detail.
And it connects right back to the house's origins, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The animal shelter, where you're constantly pinned and observed. They have the least social power and therefore the least right to privacy.
And that sense of being watched is the perfect entry point into Section 2, the internal rot that's caused by all the secrets and deceit.
The psychological intrusion starts external, the neighbor's eyes. But then it moves internal. Millie starts hearing this truly disturbing, recurring sound inside the house, which almost confirms Janice's earlier cryptic warning that it must be something on the inside that drove off the other potential buyers.
This scraping noise is one of the novel's most effective early mysteries. It happens precisely at 2 a.m., keeping Millie wide awake. She interprets this terrifying constant noise as someone or something trapped inside the structure, desperately trying to get out.
It's terrifying. She senses something primal and awful is being hidden.
And yet, Enzo, the one person she should be able to trust, just dismisses it entirely. He claims he never hears it, attributing it to the house settling, that common mundane explanation that just completely invalidates her fear.
But the detail that really feeds her paranoia is this. The moment Millie physically moves to investigate the noise, which is loud enough to send this creepy-crawly sensation down her spine, it immediately stops.
Which suggests either a conscious entity is hiding something, or that Millie's fractured psychological state is causing her to hallucinate or misinterpret ordinary sounds, just reinforcing her instability.
This house, 14 Locust, is literally breathing the secrets of the past, and Millie is the only one who's listening to its awful whispers. That stress is then compounded by Enzo's increasingly suspicious behavior, which Millie, of course, immediately links to Suzette.
And the suspicion is entirely plausible based on the circumstantial evidence. Enzo starts spending more and more time at the Lowell's house, often without telling Millie, supposedly to build his business through Suzette's high-value real estate contacts.
And Suzette clearly encourages this intimacy. She's inviting him over constantly to use their grill, to work on their massive yard. She's always touching his arm, always flirting. Millie's jealousy is just off the charts.
Especially after that beach incident where Enzo heroically rescues Suzette from the water, and Suzette just clings to him, gazing at him in a way that implies, if Millie didn't exist, we'd be together.
The whole situation feels like a classic thriller trope. The husband being lured away by the beautiful rich neighbor, and then the financial deceit hits, which seems to confirm all of Millie's worst fears about Enzo prioritizing this new life and this new woman.
Right. He withdraws a massive $1,000 from their joint bank account without telling Millie, causing a check to bounce.
So when she confronts him about the bounced check and the missing money, he lies.
He claims it was for expensive landscaping equipment, a lawn aerator, and a rototiller, and he swears he'll replace the money the next day. Millie reluctantly accepts this, choosing to believe his financial lie over the agonizing alternative of an affair. It's an exercise in willful blindness, really, driven by their financial desperation.
But the affair suspicion hits a fever pitch with that 3:00 a.m. incident. Millie wakes up to find Enzo sneaking back into bed, fully dressed in his jeans.
And when she challenges him, he claims he just went for a quick drive because he couldn't sleep.
And here is the plot detail that is meant to confirm her suspicions. He reeks of a distinctive, another woman's perfume.
Now, I have to stop here and challenge the sources for a moment. If Enzo Accardi is this hardened criminal who worked for the mob, who's capable of cold-blooded revenge and fleeing the country, would he really be so sloppy as to reek of cheap perfume after a clandestine meeting? It almost feels a little too cliché for a character with his history.
It does feel like a deliberate misdirection by the author, playing into those thriller tropes to maximize Millie's emotional turmoil. At this point, Millie is certain he's cheating with Suzette, using the 3:00 a.m. drive as cover for their rendezvous.
But if Millie thought Enzo's secretive behavior was just about finances and infidelity, well, She was about to discover his secrets went far, far darker than a bounced check. And the pressure on him to reveal the truth comes from outside, their defense lawyer, Cecilia.
Right. When Enzo is later accused of murder, they bring in Cecilia, a former public defender and a family friend they found through their police contact, Benny Ramirez. Cecilia insists Enzo's has to be completely honest if she is going to mount a defense against Detective Willard.
And this is the moment the facade just crumbles. Enzo reveals his true criminal past. He worked for a mobster named Dario Fontana for 8 years, starting when he was only 16. And Dario later married and then subsequently killed Enzo's sister, Antonia.
Enzo initially tries to minimize his role. He calls it just errands. But when Millie challenges him, asking if he broke kneecaps, he corrects her, saying no one breaks kneecaps in real life.
And when she demands to know what he did break, he admits, in this low, chilling voice, fingers.
Ugh. Fingers.
That single word fingers is terrifying because it shows this calculated, specific violence meant to enforce fear and compliance. He wasn't just a driver, he was an enforcer. And he confirms he fled the country immediately after getting revenge on Dario for Antonia's death. This confirms two things. He possesses a deep capacity for calculated, violent action, and he is driven by an absolute, non-negotiable code of fierce familial protection.
That code, that violence, that's the inherited trauma the whole family is built on.
It really is. But before the murder even happens, we get the twist that clears Enzo's name regarding the affair and the money, the truth about Martha, the cleaning woman Suzette recommended.
This section is where the source material really plays with our expectations about who deserves our sympathy. Millie instantly found Martha unnerving, right? Her intense staring, the suspicion that she was stealing a $50 check and going through her drawers.
So Millie fires her, convinced Martha is a thief and possibly dangerous, especially after Martha looks directly at Millie while mentioning being made to feel like a criminal.
And the actual truth completely exonerates Enzo's finances, though it confirms he lied about the equipment. Enzo confesses that Martha's abusive husband was taking all of her paychecks, leaving her totally destitute.
And here's where Enzo's protective impulse reasserts itself in a big way. The $1,000 Enzo withdrew was used illegally to buy a gun for Martha's protection until he could help her flee hundreds of miles away from her abuser.
Which is just pure, high-stakes, moral action.
It is. He used their last savings and committed a felony to save a complete stranger. And he concealed it from Millie, citing his concern over her high blood pressure, not wanting to increase her stress further.
And Millie, being skeptical, goes to Martha's weather-worn home and confronts the abusive, coughing husband who confirms Martha took off on me earlier this week.
So this proves Enzo was not cheating. He was lying to protect Millie from the stress of his protective and, yes, illegal actions. He sacrificed their financial security and his own freedom to help a woman in need, mirroring the same core protective mechanism that led him to kill Dario years ago. It's a beautifully layered moral complication, showing that the criminal in the family is also, in a way, its moral center.
The domestic drama, which was fueled by all these secrets and misunderstandings, finally explodes next door. Millie, thinking Enzo is sleeping with Suzette, goes to 12 Locust Street to confront her.
And instead of finding her rival, she finds the brutal crime scene. Jonathan Lowell's lifeless body is near the stairwell in the living room, surrounded by that shocking, endless pool of blood we talked about from the prologue.
And she knows a significant detail. The entire house smells strongly of cleaner and bleach, suggesting someone tried and failed to cover up the evidence before she got there.
Then Detective Willard, the tough cop assigned to the case, immediately targets Enzo. And the neighborhood architecture, the surveillance, provides the key witness, Janice Archer.
Of course, Janice.
Janice, the paranoid busybody who literally watches the street through her dark windows, confirms that Enzo entered the Lowell house through the front door about 2 hours before the body was found. And crucially for Willard's case, Janice testifies she never saw him leave via the front.
Suggesting he used the back exit to flee the scene undetected.
Exactly. And Willard builds this tight, circumstantial case using all the Accardi family's suppressed secrets. He focuses on the financial instability, the bounced check, and Enzo's illegal gun purchase, claiming the $1,000 was used for the murder weapon, not for Martha's defense.
And then he connects it all to Suzette, providing a massive motive for conspiracy. Willard reveals that Jonathan Lowell had recently increased his life insurance policy significantly,
which creates a huge payday that could be split between Enzo and Suzette. The theory is Enzo killed Jonathan so Suzette could collect and then hire him for her landscaping business permanently, thus stabilizing his finances. It's a neat, plausible theory built entirely on lies, circumstantial evidence, and Enzo's past.
Facing this overwhelming, damning circumstantial evidence, Enzo makes the stunning, selfless, and truly heartbreaking decision to sacrifice himself. During the police interrogation, Enzo confesses to killing Jonathan Lowell.
This is the moment where his innate protective nature just completely overwhelms his desire for a normal life. He tells Millie that the actual weapon used was the small pocket knife he had given their daughter, Ada.
The one he'd gotten from his own father.
That's the one. Enzo instantly recognized the weapon, he knew the method, and he realized his daughter was the true perpetrator. He confessed to the murder to protect Ada, willing to trade his freedom and his future for her safety. He couldn't save his sister Antonia, but he will save Ada.
That choice forces you to redefine his entire character. We thought he was the mobster, the violent one who's destroying their family, but in fact he's the shield, willing to take the fall for a crime he didn't commit simply because he believes in his family's self-preservation above all else.
Meanwhile, while Enzo is being interrogated, the psychological toll on their son, Nico, becomes alarmingly clear. Millie starts connecting the dots between Nico's new behavioral problems, the aggression, the distance, and specifically punching a classmate named Caden Ruda and the move to Locust Street.
Enzo tries to excuse it. He says Nico stood up for a girl, but Millie recognizes the level of violence is new and unsettling.
Right, and Ada confronts Nico about his weird behavior and his reluctance to keep doing chores at the Lowell's house, chores he was supposedly doing to pay for a stained glass window he broke with a baseball. That chore explanation starts to sound really thin.
And then finally, the source of the pointy and scraping sound is revealed.
Yes. Millie and Enzo discovered the truth about the house itself. A hidden, coffin-sized room behind a wall in their house, covered in glue. It's claustrophobic, described as feeling like being buried alive, and Enzo, recognizing the horror of it, immediately seals it back up.
I think we need to linger on that hidden room for a second. It's not just a secret space. It's a tangible symbol of the buried rot of the neighborhood. It's small, dark, and it requires this intense effort to break into. It's a place meant for confinement and psychological torture.
And Ada connects this horrifying physical space to Nico's trauma. She reveals she followed Nico to that room, realizing he was going there repeatedly. Her later confession implies that Jonathan Lowell, the amiable finance guy who was morose about not having children, was using this hidden room for abusive or perverse purposes with Nico, a secret predator hiding in plain sight.
So that explains Nico's sudden aggression and distress. The physical space of the animal shelter house was in fact being used as a literal cage.
And this detail completely reframes the murder. Jonathan wasn't killed over insurance money or an affair. He was killed because of a vicious, hidden crime committed against a child. This shifts the entire focus from criminal conspiracy to protective justice.
The stage is now set for the ultimate reversal of expectations. Enzo has sacrificed his life. Nico is traumatized by the secret room. Millie confronts Ada about Enzo's confession, and Ada blurts out the raw truth, completing the circuit of inherited violence. I was the one who killed him.
And this is the moment where the inherited code of the Accardi family, this impulse for protective justice delivered outside the lawfully manifests in the next generation. Ada, the bookish 11-year-old, she recognized Nico's distress and his weird behavior after being at Jonathan's house. So she went to confront Jonathan, armed with the very pocket knife Enzo had given her for protection.
And she didn't just stab him. She followed her father's violent, specific instructions.
Exactly. Enzo had taught her precisely what to do. Use it only if you absolutely have to, placing it in the belly and twisting. Ada confirms she stabbed Jonathan in the belly, twisted the knife as instructed, and then later slit his throat, confirming the 2 specific stab wounds the police found at the crime scene.
Enzo's immediate confession suddenly snapped into crystal clarity. He recognized the weapon and the unique method, the twist, instantly. He didn't need any other proof. He knew his daughter, driven by the protective instinct he modeled, had committed the murder.
And Millie, the mother who fled a past murder conviction, takes immediate, instinctual action, grabbing the bloody navy blue shirt Ada was wearing and hiding it in her dresser.
The Accardi family's attempt at normalcy is over. It's replaced by a shared violent secret. Millie's mission now pivots from avoiding the past to protecting her daughter and freeing her husband.
Right, so she uses Benny Ramirez's connections to track down Suzette, who has fled to a swanky hotel after her house was searched. Millie is prepared to confront the woman she still suspects of being her husband's lover and a co-conspirator.
And Suzette is still desperately trying to frame Enzo. She attempts to paint him as obsessed, jealous, and unstable. In a final act of malice, she reveals that Enzo told her he felt trapped into getting married because Millie was pregnant with Ada.
Which is this cruel truth that Millie realizes Enzo must have confided in Suzette, causing one final, sharp emotional blow.
But Millie and Ramirez have the ultimate piece of proof that just dismantles Suzette's carefully crafted facade. Ramirez confirms that during the police search of 14 Locust Street, Suzette Lowell's fingerprints were found inside the hidden coffin-like room.
Wait, I need to pause on that. The farmhouse wife, the woman who represents suburban perfection, her prints were in the animal shelter's hidden cage.
Yes, this evidence proves unequivocally that Suzette not only knew about the existence of the secret claustrophobic room, but by extension, she knew about Jonathan's predatory actions against children, and she chose to remain silent. Her perfection was a deliberate cover for a truly monstrous secret next door.
So, confronted with the evidence of her complicity, Suzette breaks. She confesses to the murder.
And this confession is fascinating because it's still self-serving, isn't it? Suzette claims she did it to escape scrutiny and avoid exposure of her complicity in Jonathan's actions.
But her confession, calculated as it is, inadvertently serves the Accardi family by stopping the police investigation and allowing Enzo's charges to be dropped.
With the confession secured, Enzo is released. And the physical marker of Millie's profound stress, her high blood pressure, finally returns to normal, symbolizing the release of the psychological pressure they were under.
But the house is irrevocably poisoned. Millie and Enzo decide the only way to genuinely start fresh is to sell 14 Locust Street and relocate, seeking a true new beginning away from the ghosts and physical manifestations of their traumatic past.
But the legacy of their violent protective instincts is not left behind. It's fully inherited by Ada. We see this explosive shift in her final confrontation with a school bully named Hunter.
Hunter continues to bother her and other girls, and Ada stops ignoring him. She doesn't use standard defense mechanisms. She uses the language of violence she inherited.
She tells Hunter, without blinking, that if he bothers her or any other girls again, she'll sneak into his bedroom and he will wake up to find his bloody balls lying on the sheets next to you.
She even mentions learning the word castrate from a book.
And the source material notes the color drains from his face and he runs away. This is the effective, dark resolve of her parents, channeled through an 11-year-old.
And in the wake of this display of terrifying power, Ada looks out the library window and realizes a profound truth about her identity. She had always thought she looked exactly like Enzo, but as she gets older, her facial features are becoming a lot more similar to my mom's. This is the psychological manifestation of inheriting the Calloway legacy, not just physically, but spiritually.
Which brings us to the ultimate, chilling final reversal, the identity of Martha, this seemingly harmless, victimized cleaning woman.
Martha is revealed to be the true silent architect of the entire Accardi experience in Long Island. She's the same person who is working for the wealthy family whose teenage son, a boy who sexually assaulted a girl, Millie Calloway, which is Millie Accardi's maiden name,
Was convicted of murdering years ago.
Exactly. Martha recognized Millie Calloway instantly when she came to view 14 Locust Street. This means everything Martha did, asking for money, accepting Enzo's help, facilitating his illegal actions, was based on a calculated knowledge of Millie's dark past and her capacity for delivering justice outside the legal system.
So Martha states clearly that she had no doubt that he deserved the justice Millie doled out years ago, even though the jury didn't agree. And crucially, Martha notes that when the Accardis moved in, she knew it would be her ticket out.
This profoundly redefines her role. Martha wasn't a random victim Enzo saved. She was a strategic operator. Her actions were part of a long game plan connected to Millie's presence, positioning her to exploit Enzo's protective instincts for her own escape from abuse.
She was always watching, always judging, and always using Millie Calloway's history to secure her own freedom.
She is the original Housemaid Watching, connected to Millie's first act of violence, and the last figure to witness their escape. She is the silent external judgment the family can never truly shake.
What an incredible synthesis of secrets, trauma, and calculated protection. If you felt like you were navigating a hall of mirrors, that's because every assumed fact in this deep dive was a deliberate misdirection designed to test the limits of family loyalty. So let's synthesize those biggest aha moments for you.
The novel systematically subverts all conventional thriller expectations. The seemingly perfect neighbor, Suzette, was secretly complicit in covering up her husband Jonathan's hideous predatory actions and the secret room.
And the suspicious, overtly paranoid neighbor, Janice, was actually the only character providing accurate information about the pervasive surveillance.
And within the family, the roles were completely inverted. The family patriarch, Enzo, the man we thought was cheating, the hardened criminal who broke fingers, was actually the ultimate protector, willing to sacrifice his freedom for a stranger, Martha, and for his daughter, Ada.
And the true killer wasn't the criminal father, but the quiet, bookish daughter, Ada, acting on the code of protective violence she inherited.
And the most profound reversal is Martha. The victim who needed saving was actually hiding in plain sight, an external figure directly connected to Millie's dark past, Wilhelmina Calloway, the convicted killer. Martha used Millie's arrival and the subsequent chaos strategically to secure her own long-delayed freedom.
The learner takeaway here is profound and unsettling. Achieving a normal life is fundamentally impossible when you are built on deep, shared criminal histories, intense psychological trauma, and this powerful instinctual commitment to protective violence. Millie's and Enzo's attempts to outrun their past are consistently undermined, not by chance, but by the very code of honor they live by. The moment they sought safety, the past delivered their daughter a knife and a target.
And Ada's final, shocking threat to Hunter, coupled with her realization that she is physically taking on the appearance of her mother, Millie Calloway, the convicted killer, suggests that the Accardi legacy is not defined by the love and stability they craved. It is defined by the violent, swift, protective instinct, the justice that Martha acknowledged years ago, that has been passed down and continues to define the women of this family.
So the provocative thought we leave you with, the question for you to mull over after this intensive deep dive is this. When Ada uses her inherited capacity for violence to protect her traumatized brother and other innocent children, is that violence inherently monstrous, or, given the moral vacuum of their suburban environment, does it make her a justified hero, continuing her mother's brand of necessary extra-legal justice?
The answer, as always with the Accardi family, is anything but easy and certainly not clean.